I'm an anti-feminist because I think it's oppressive. I think it's anti-male. I think it's anti-femininity.
Now, it may be a very weak Brexit, but I tell you what, Brexit of any kind and leaving those treaties as well.
That's the best ever interview. The Michael Parkinson. You got nothing on this bloke.
G'day and welcome to Pellowe Talk. I'm Dave Pellowe, and making the news lately has been the tour of Jacinta Price, who's been just talking about her experiences and her perspectives and the upset that her point of view has been causing. And it's received quite some unfavourable coverage, with the ABC describing Jacinta as a divisive person and not even giving her the courtesy of an opportunity for comment on those things. Now, what has been incredibly controversial was when the Coffs Harbour City Council decided that upon the request of a couple of its residents, that they would suggest Jacinta should ask for permission before coming into the town or daring to speak in the town about her opinions. And a very interesting article about it that I want to share with you all today was written by Anthony Dillon. Now, Anthony Dillon is another part Aboriginal Australian who just wanted to offer his perspective on the whole thing without being for one side or another, but just speaking his mind as objectively and somewhat qualified. So it's my pleasure to welcome to Pellowe Talk once again, Anthony Dillon. Welcome to Pellowe Talk, Anthony.
Hi, Dave.
Now, why don't you take the lead and walk us through the article that you wrote, and maybe we can expand upon it with the space that we have in a conversation to some of the larger points that this example represents and is observable many times throughout the Australian conversation.
Yeah, sure. Look, here's Jacinta. She has a message that she wants to tell people who will listen. She's not forcing anyone to come and listen to her. She's not knocking on people's doors. She's not walking into their living rooms. She's hiring out a hall in a public space. People have to pay to go to it, okay?
Right.
So people who are there are the people who want to be there, and she's just sharing her insights, her opinions, and she doesn't expect that everyone will agree with her, and she welcomes disagreements. So why the hate that's fired at her? And I mentioned this in the article. Basically, she's telling a few truths which make the what I call the victim brigade unhappy.
One of the things you observe early on in the article is that there's not actually a lot of substance to the disagreement. It seems to be mostly labels, insults, and character attacks. Now, I recently observed this going on Jacinta's updates on Facebook and in the news and the links to the various things happening in the media. And I called the attack of some Aboriginals against other Aboriginals, such as yourself, as well as Jacinta, the ugliest divide in Australia. And one person in particular took a great objection to that, somebody who seems to resonate with the critics of Jacinta, although he personally said he doesn't condemn her in the same way. And he was trying to come up with other examples which were the greatest divide. But I think it is, I can't think of a worse divide in Australia. I can't think of a more uglier display of behaviour than from one side of these Aboriginals, part Aboriginals, who seem to take this authoritarian stand against people who disagree with them. But they do it in such a way as is the most manifest display of hate speech, if there is such a thing, that I've seen anywhere in Australia. It's loaded with racism, loaded with bitterness and bile and resentment and unforgiveness. And it's essentially because Jacinta disagrees with her. What are your observations of that? Is it the ugliest divide in Australia? Am I overstating it? Or what are the characters of this division between Aboriginal issued debates?
Well, Dave, very simply, it is an ugly divide, and that's because she's talking about ugly topics. But if you were to, so there's Jacinta and let's just call them the others. if one of those parties was white, firing those sorts of things, well, let's suppose the critics were white, saying those things to Jacinta, it would be over very, very quickly. Those people would be in court. They would be in trouble.
If they were white and talking to the others, the leftists, there are a few white people that say that to Jacinta, because you can say that to a conservative. But if they were saying it to, one of the Aboriginal leftists, then there would be hell to pay.
Yeah. Because Jacinta's not going to kick up a big stink. Is that what you're saying?
No, because when you attack a conservative, even if you're a white person attacking a black conservative, that seems to be okay.
Yeah. Well, yes, there's that aspect to it as well. But, from a race perspective, if you were to make it black or white, it's pretty ugly. People wouldn't stand for that. But
it is incredibly horrible language.
And Dave, we see this. This doesn't just happen in verbal discussions and slinging matches. You only have to see, read the news, for example. When it's black on black killing, it doesn't even make the news. And this is the sort of thing Jacinta and her family will talk about. They will tell you about family and friends who get killed in the campsites and that sort of thing. It doesn't make the news. However, if there's a death of an Aboriginal person and you can implicate a white person, a white system, it's big news. They all want to know about it. But when it's black killing black, no, not interested. Jacinta has seen so many bad, horrific, terrible things happen to her loved ones. She doesn't care about being blunt and direct and people who are going to take offence because she has messages which are going to, if people listen to them, will hopefully save lives. And that's what she's concerned about, saving lives and improving the quality of life. And if it's going to upset, ruffle the feathers of the elite sitting in their nice, comfortable chairs, well, so be it.
Now, you refer in your article to a quote from Jacinta's mum, Bess Price, and she refers to Disneyland culture. Tell me about that. What does that mean?
Yeah, the sort of culture we see in cities, I see it in academia all the time, where the Indigenous people are, they love to stereotype themselves. We're great storytellers, we're connected to the land, etc., etc. So they have to criticise or complain about Aboriginal people being stereotyped by the white fella, but they're happy to stereotype themselves. And so they do present this, fabricated, sugar-coated culture, the welcoming to country, for example. And all this silly, the need for culturally safe places and cultural safety and cultural sensitivities and all this sort of nonsense. You go to Aboriginal communities like I do, and the people are quite robust. They're fun people. They don't carry on, when they meet you, they don't say, "Hi, I'm a Kumba Merry Man." It's just, "G'day, mate, I'm Max." And it's, just like two buddies meeting. In the cities, with the, what I call the culture vultures, I guess, these people who sort of step into the role of Aborigine, they put on the cloak of culture, and it's just ridiculous. So,
something I think Jacinta mentioned in her tour, and maybe you mentioned it in your article, was that welcome to country was not commonly practiced amongst different language groups too far back. Yeah,
at least nothing like what we see today. They would have had a process to get the conversation started or something. But
sure.
To make it an ornament the way they have today, and for people to be offended when it doesn't happen, is just ridiculous.
We saw one guy, I think you referred to him as a childlike tantrumer in Brisbane when Jacinta started discussing her reasons for not having it.
I am Shannon Ruskin, and I'm a traditional owner here. And she has an ass down permission, and she'll front the law.
Yes, and he would want you to believe that Jacinta upset him. She did not. He upset himself.
Yeah.
She was just the excuse.
Yeah, very good point. And we see in this behaviour again that rather than letting Jacinta articulate her position and then going away and writing an article or doing a YouTube or maybe participating in the Q&A time at the end of it to offer a different perspective, he instead sought to shout her down.
Yeah.
And just silence all debate. He literally ran away from the debate.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, look, it is very much a childlike tantrum. And you know what little children are like. They don't just engage in rational discussion. They will throw a tantrum, stop that, fall on the ground, cry, whinge, moan, scream. That's basically what this fellow was doing.
Yep.
I mean, had he have had the guts, he would have said, look, I disagree with you, and this is the reason why I disagree.
Yeah, fair enough. And look, the thing I read so many times over and again from people who disagree with me is, how dare I impose my views on them? But what we actually see is them behaving in exactly the kind of behaviour which they object to, namely offering an opinion. Well, they can offer their opinion and it's apparently not imposing views upon somebody else. But what is an imposition of views is forcing somebody to have to comply with your religious practices, like welcome to country, and then punishing you by all kinds of bullying, such as this child did in the Brisbane leg of Jacinta's speaking to her. If you fail to cooperate with the views that they wish to impose upon you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to respect other people's rights to not be as interested or passionate about something as what you may be. And when you got to force people into behaving a certain way, it's not good for anyone.
You ask a really probing question at the end of your article. There's a film, I'll just read it. There's a film currently doing the rounds that focuses on alleged racism against an Aboriginal footballer, which has a few of the bleeding hearts praising it. However, I think a film of Jacinta's talk sponsored by True Arrow should be made available to the public. If there was such a film, would your heart allow your ears to hear it? What exactly do you mean by that? What would your heart allow your ears to hear it?
Well, that's going back to the quote I gave at the beginning of the article by Einstein. I believe it's from Einstein.
Mm-hmm.
The ears won't hear what the heart can't accept. The ears won't hear what the heart can't accept. So if there's a truth, which you know to be a truth, but you don't like it, well, then your ears are going to let you hear it and you'll shout someone down. And so that's what I meant there. And so I think a lot of people a lot of Jacinta's critics out there know that she speaks the truth, and therefore they wouldn't want to see a film that had what she talks about in it. And they wouldn't want to go to one of her presentations because they don't like those truths.
How do you talk to somebody who's possibly got their heart closed to these ideas? I mean, let me give you this question in two parts. You can tell me firstly, how do we talk to those people who would normally be on the left, who don't see it the way you and I might? But then answer the second question, or second part to the question, which is, what if it's our hearts which are closed to what those people on the left are saying to us? How do we recognise that and change that? Because I, for one, would prefer to discover I was wrong than to continue being wrong. Yeah,
great question. I don't know if I have the right answer for it, but for the first part, I guess do what Jacinta does, and that's like I said at the beginning of this interview. She doesn't force anyone to come.
Yeah.
She just gives a message for those who are willing to attend and willing to pay, willing to pay to attend. And a good friend of mine taught me, food is for the hungry. Okay, so when people are hungry, they will eat. You don't force food down their throats, otherwise they will gag. As for ourselves, gee, that's a tough one. I guess all we can really do is, be prepared to be challenged, challenge ourselves and say, look, I disagree with this person, but I'm going to hear them out. If you walk away still disagreeing, that's fine. Think, okay, look, I've listened to them.
Yep.
I disagree with them.
Yep.
Mick, don't avoid those people that you know are going to challenge you. It takes time.
Yeah, it's true. Look, this question is actually something I'm deeply interested in because I care deeply. I do want to see reconciliation, and I believe the key is forgiveness. I believe there's only so many times you can say sorry, and I do not believe it should be a perpetual guilt and perpetual apology. I think the concept, one of the concepts that I've been told has to happen before there can be reconciliation is truth-telling. And the truth that some people want to tell is incredibly negative, bitter, and blinkered, very, very misrepresentative of the whole picture. There's absolutely no reasonable person I know of who denies the horrors and atrocities that were committed by white people, by some white people, in times gone past and in times in recent memory.
Yeah, look, great point. And now, when you say the truth needs to be told, I'm all for the truth being told.
Of course.
What I oppose greatly is when someone makes it a condition upon for me to move forward or get better or whatever. I'm telling the truth, I'm all for acknowledging the past. But as soon as you tell a group of people, and this is what's happening, Aboriginal people are hearing this message constantly. We cannot move forward until XYZ is acknowledged. Well, many already have moved forward. If people
that puts that to lie then, doesn't it?
Yeah, if people, exactly. Now, if someone like the Prime Minister or whatever wants to make a grand statement, that's great. But I want people to know, especially Aboriginal people, that they can move on. They don't have to be victims until that acknowledgement happens. And I wrote about this many years ago with the Prime Minister's apology. I wasn't opposed to it. What I was opposed to was telling people that in order to feel better, healed, free, whatever, you need to hear this apology. No, you don't need to hear it.
Yeah.
The apology is good, but what is more important is what you spoke about, offering forgiveness.
Yeah. I was deeply impressed when I saw work of art by Bindi Kolchoka. In response to Kevin Rudd's apology, she created a really large-scale work of art, and she's a nationally significant part Indigenous artist, and famous, in fact, for most, perhaps amongst conservatives, most famous for having been one of the people to take Andrew Bolt to court for hurting her feelings with his description about her skin colour. And she prevailed, and it was a blow against free speech for the nation. But that aside, she has subsequently apologised to Andrew for that, and in a full 180 act of repentance, has actually become quite conservative. And she made this beautiful work of art after Kevin Rudd's apology to the nation, which I think is just the perfect response, the thing that, well, white Australians are waiting for. And this, with a sigh of relief, she made this work of art that says, "I forgive you," in large, large letters, covered with thousands of emu feathers, now stored in, I think, the Queensland Museum. And I think that's just beautiful. "I'm sorry" is followed by "I forgive you." And it seems to me that it's a bit of a universal truth, that is the key to reconciliation. I'm sorry, I forgive you. One follows the other.
Yeah. Look, there's a elder that I like, Uncle Max Harrison, and I very rarely refer to the elders as uncle.
You do?
Yeah, very rarely.
So you must respect him.
Yes, I do. He's one of the ones, because his message, I remember I picked up his book called My People's Dreaming. I thought, oh, this is interesting. And I just flipped open. And there was this bit on forgiveness. And he said, forgiveness is for your healing. It's got nothing to do with the person who has probably done wrong. It's for your healing. And just as an aside, I won't spoil the message. I'll let people read the book, but he does have a very good reason for being bitter, but he's not, and he explains that in part of his book, where there's a tragedy, but he forgave the person involved when it would have been so easy to not forgive. So readers can find that bit out for themselves. I don't want to say it here.
I do. I want to spoil it. I want to do an interview with him. Can you introduce us?
Yeah, I'll look for his phone number.
Yeah,
and I'll send it to you.
That'd be awesome, and warm him up and let him know that I'm going to. I just want to hear him. I want to hear him tell his story. And you know what? Some of the people who have disagreed with my views on, I guess, Aboriginal reconciliation, have invited me to hear the other side of the story. And like you said, I'm really open to that. I'm really, really interested in giving people who disagree with me the opportunity to persuade me that I'm wrong. And I believe that some of these people who disagree with me are not the bitter, angry blacktivists that so often dominate the space and media attention that they're given. And I want to give them a platform. If this is the best platform they can get, please come on and tell your story. Let me tell your story. I want to let myself be challenged, and I want to ask questions back rather than just take everything at face value. Help me and my viewers to understand where have we got it wrong.
Yeah.
What do we need to do? And hopefully that's a two-way conversation that's civil and respectful. But Uncle Max Harris, hey?
Yes. Was it Max Harrison?
Max Harrison.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to look him up. But that's really great. For anybody that wants to hear a little bit more about this, I mean, we're going to keep the conversation going here at Pellowe Talk because this is important. And it's sure as night follows day, the others, as Anthony called them, are going to remind us all about it incessantly at every opportunity, especially in January. And we just want the truth to be told. And I think we all agree that that's a good idea, although we may have definitions for what that actually means. But at the Church and State Summit, which is on the 28th and 29th of February in 2020, you're going to get the opportunity to come along and have a whole session devoted to this question as Bindi Cole Choka actually comes as one of the guest speakers and shares her personal testimony about all the reasons for bitterness and resentment that she has in her life. It's an incredible story of redemption from life rags to life riches, where she was a darling professional victim of the left, in jail, a really rough childhood. And I don't want to spoil it all for you, but needless to say, she's been on Andrew Bolt and apologised for her part in the damage to free speech in Australia. And now she preaches this message of reconciliation, which is taking responsibility for yourself and walking in that forgiveness regardless of whether the other person deserves it or not. It's all about this personal maturity thing. So, good article, Anthony, and thanks for continuing to speak up as fearlessly as some others do. I know the slings and the barbs fly to you as much as they do to Jacinta, and they fall to the ground without wounding you, I'm sure.
Yes, they do. And thank you for the opportunity to talk, Dave.
Always a pleasure, and you're a good bloke, and fighting the good fight in that lion's den we call academia. All the best. Thanks for watching Pellowe Talk. And if you would like to subscribe to the infrequent newsletters that I send, you can head to my website, davepellowe.com. On that website, you'll also find the opportunity to partner with this channel. If news and interviews like this are something that you value, there's one way to make sure that they keep going, and that's just partner regularly. You can do a one-off donation or as little as $3 or $5 a month, which really is less than you pay for a bad cup of coffee. And that will be a big help. And I hope to see you at the Church and State Summit. And if you haven't got the details for that, head to the website, churchandstate.com.au. There's great early bird prices in something like 30% off for a 2-day summit. It's specifically for Christians, but everybody, including disagreement, is welcome. And that's in Brisbane on the 28th and 29th of February. Make sure you share this interview with your friends, and please join the conversation in the comments below wherever you're watching this right now. That could be YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or the website itself, davepellowe.com. And let's keep the conversation going. Tell me where I'm wrong. Persuade me. Don't just insist. And bring facts, logic, data, evidence. And let's work together to tell the truth and move forward, advance Australia as equal, indifferent people, all on the same page. And we'll see you later.